So we welcome these new members. Evelyn Stockrocki. Yes. So Evelyn gets her name tag that says member on it. That's the hot item. That's the hot item. Come here, Evelyn. Let me give you a hug.
This is the easy part.
Yeah, this is the easy part. You can sit down.
Okay. Thank you. Finally. Did not know.
I know.
Did you plan this? These two are twins.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
Great minds think alike. What can I say? We must be middle class.
Eddie Reyes. Poet minor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Marie Figaro. I don't know if
Figaro?
That's right.
Hug. That's why you didn't have your name tag when you came in, because I made you a new one.
Okay, thank you.
James Evans.
I'm so glad to be here.
Okay. So let us welcome our new members. Why don't all the new members stand? Everybody else will be seated. The new members stand. And with the blessing, we love you, we bless you, we really appreciate you. We love you, we bless you, we really appreciate you. And now we have our sharing Sunday. We're going to do them in last name, alphabetical order in reverse. So therefore, the first one will be Kim Sheik.
Morning. Good morning. My name's Kim Sheik. I was born and raised in the Kansas City area. Because of that geographical connection, Unity's been part of my awareness as long as I can remember. But as a kid, I didn't really understand what it was all about. And in the process of sharing my journey, I'm also going to share a little bit of Unity history with you. My parents met at a Southern Baptist college, and that was the church we attended until they divorced when I was 8 years old. Although Mom continues to have strong faith to this day, and I'm blessed to still have her, our minister back then thought that counseling a divorcee should be a good deal more physical than she was comfortable with, and we quit going to church entirely. Around Kansas City, many of our typical routes would take us past Unity Village. I had no idea what it was. In those days, but it was a cool-looking building, or complex. In those days, there were extensive orchards on the property. And when I was in the 3rd grade, we took a field trip to tour the orchards and the cider and apple butter processing plant. So, for years, that's what I thought Unity Village was all about. One day on a trip with my grandparents, we stopped at a roadside fruit stand. This was very unusual for them. I always begged them to stop, and they always didn't have time. But I found out later the reason we stopped is that the stand was being managed by my grandfather's cousin, a man named Clyde Korn, who just happened to be the manager of the orchards at Unity Village. Not long after that, I started receiving We Wisdom magazine in the mail. We Wisdom was founded by Myrtle Fillmore in 1893 for the children. As people would talk about, what's the purpose of this silly magazine? Who will take care of the children? That was one of her missions. It continued to be published until 1991. Each issue included stories and activities such as puzzles or connect the dots or coloring pages. Now, receiving mail in your own name as a child is thrilling. And I have always been an avid reader, so I devoured every single page. But again, I really wasn't aware that it had anything to do with a church. It was just my mail. Fast forward several years till I graduated from college, and I quickly figured out that meeting people at work or bars was really not the greatest option. Seemed to be a better idea to find a church home. I started sampling various Baptist churches near where I lived because that's what I knew. Eventually, my mother said, if you only go to funny little Baptist churches, you're only going to meet funny little Baptists. To the rest of the Reformed Baptists in the audience, I apologize. When I repeated that to a friend of mine, she suggested that we meet at a church she had been wanting to try, Unity Temple on the Plaza. Now, for those of you not familiar with the temple, it's often called the Founders Church. Envisioned by Charles Fillmore, it was the first building ever built specifically to become a Unity church. It was financed by small contributions from readers of Unity magazines all over the world over a period of many, many years. It took 15 years of planning, plus 5 years to build. Sadly, Charles did not live long enough to see the building completed, but it was dedicated and services had begun in the basement about a month before he passed. At the time that the land was purchased, that area in Kansas City was on the southern edge of town and sparsely developed. This year, as we celebrate the 75th anniversary of the temple, it is surrounded by one of Kansas City's most prestigious shopping districts and residential neighborhoods. And it's sort of on the mid to northern edge of town. So the following Sunday, Kathy and I met at the temple. The first sign that I was truly in the place I was meant to be is we walked in and the organist playing the prelude had been my piano teacher when I was 6 years old. Everything about the service felt like coming home. The lesson, the music, ending with the peace song. I will never know if it was my early exposure to Unity through We Wisdom, or if I would have felt that way regardless. I joined the church and its choir shortly thereafter. Reverend Bill Cameron, who ended his career in Florida, I believe in Miami, shared that he planned to start a new singles group soon. When the leader of that group left after a few months, I was one of 2 people who took over as co-leaders. And that is where I met Lynn. We were married at the temple in November of 1983. And although I was then married and a new stepmother to 3 little boys, I continued leading the singles group for several more months. Eventually, I persuaded Lynn to join the choir, and we both sang in that choir until it was discontinued during the recent pandemic. Majority of our friends in Kansas City are people we've met through the church, especially the choir. So when we started spending more time in Florida, it just seemed to be the best way to meet like-minded people to find a Unity congregation here. The Unity perspective of an all-good, loving God has been the foundation of my worldview for many, many years. This made rejecting the traditional Baptist view of a vengeful, judgmental God much easier and very logical. I'm still learning new spiritual concepts and striving to incorporate them into my life. I hope that continues for many years because I believe that once we stop learning, we also stop living. And I would invite any of you who have an opportunity to be in Kansas City, whether it's to attend a Unity event or some other reason, to be sure to contact us, because if we are there and not here or traveling someplace else, we would love to show you around.
Good morning, church family. Good morning. My name is Poet Minor, and I started my spiritual journey at Unity Fellowship Church in Brooklyn, where I learned God is love and love is for everyone. Later, when I attended Unity of New York, I learned love leaves no one out. When I relocated from New York City to Orlando, Florida, I attended Center for Spiritual Living, where I learned God is in and through everything. After the pastor passed, which was a friend of mine, I started attending Christ Church Unity Orlando, where I started to learn about Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, founders of Unity. When the pastor left CCU Orlando and took the position of senior minister at Unity of Tampa, I attended church once, but found it was too far to travel each Sunday. I started to watch the services online on YouTube, but I knew I needed to get back to my spiritual connections. So I went on Unity's website, unity.org, and I found Unity of Clermont, my new home. In all the Unity churches I've taken classes in, I've learned the basic principles for living a life of freedom, ease, perfect health, wealth, and happiness. And that is to love yourself so you can love others, forgive yourself so you can forgive others, and the best is yet to come. Thank you.
I'm Dana Miller, and wow, what a big crowd. I rewrote my speech this morning because I realized it was too deep, too dramatic. And boy, am I glad I did, because you guys are hard to follow. I've lived here in South Lake County for over 30 years. And I have been a member of this church longer than any of you. But that's about it on superiority. I was raised in a God-loving household. I do hear a lot of people say God-fearing, judgmental, but I was really lucky. I'm a baby boomer. I went to church in the 70s. We had guitars and tambourines, and it was all about love. And it was the Catholic Church, so that was kind of shocking. My first meditation class was at the Catholic Church. So I had a very different experience than a lot of people. My parents were married for over 60 years, and the 60-year mark, I truly believe we celebrated that they didn't kill each other. During that time, they always, every week, attended a different church from one another, which is very rare. Most people, when you're of different faiths, you just stop going. Many years, the five of us would get in the car, one car. My dad would drop us off at the Catholic Church. He would drive one block to the Lutheran church, park, and go to his service. After church, we walked the one block. We ate the Lutheran donuts and waited for my dad to get out of church. That means we went to 2 Easter Sundays. We went to 2 Christmas church parties. We went to every social event of both churches. If we were naughty, if we messed with our brother or our sister in Mass, the next week we went to the Lutheran church. And it was punishment to us because they played the organ exclusively. So we missed out on the guitars and the tambourine, you know. The Beatle music, that was really a lot of fun to listen to in the 70s, you know. The thing about being Catholic was I was probably one of the few people in my family that continued to be very devout. I attended the Catholic Church no matter what country I lived in. When it was Chinese Sunday, when I was living in Malaysia, I still went, even though I didn't understand Chinese, I still went to Mass, okay? And through my early 40s, I was very devout. But what I realized was it wasn't enough. And when my life became so difficult, when my marriage was so miserable, even though I had a nice home, I had twin boys that I had prayed for 12 years, I was so unhappy. And I started to realize that I needed a lot more. I started exercising. Didn't do any good. I started taking yoga classes. My yoga instructor told me that I was the most unflexible student she'd ever had. But the 5 minutes at the end of yoga was meditation. And I started to see a little bit of a flicker of a light. Then I started saying, wait a second, what about all those people that are on Oprah Winfrey? So I started reading books of Deepak Chopra and Wayne Dyer and Marianne Williamson. I started reading these books, and I remember one day standing in the bookstore, talking to God, saying, where are all the people that read these books? I went home and do what we all do now a lot. I Googled. I Googled and Googled all afternoon, and all of a sudden, I finally typed in the right word, and appeared unity, not to be confused with Universalist Unitarians. And I said, well, my dad was a Unitarian when he was a kid, because it was either that or being Catholic. And God forbid he was going to be Catholic. I then went on the Unity website. And I stood there in my office screaming, this is me. This is what I believe. I was like so hopeful. I found the Unity Church in Orlando. And I began to go there every Sunday, went there for about a year and a half. I remember the first time I went to a prayer chaplain at the Unity of Orlando. And it was an African-American woman. She had her big Sunday hat that matched her big Sunday outfit. And after praying with me and listening to a couple of minutes with me, she said, she had a prayer, a Buddhist prayer she had memorized, and she said it to me. And again, I thought, this is where you're supposed to be. That when you're sitting with someone who can just rattle off something beautiful to try to bring you a little bit of peace. I knew I was in the right place. Christmas Eve comes, I drag my small children and my husband to service, and it was wonderful. But on the route home, we stop at the gas station, and the drug dealing that's taking place at the gas station makes me realize I cannot keep driving my kids through that section of town to get to church, because it really was a very dangerous part of town. So I started looking a little bit further. Is there any other Unity churches out there? And sure enough, they started advertising Unity of Clermont. So the very next Sunday, I ran to Unity of Clermont, There were times when there was just one or two of us. And it didn't matter whether there was 1, 2, or 10 of us. She made us do things that made me feel very uncomfortable, like sing to each other. And of course, this morning, after having a really rough week, but the roughest part was thinking I had to give the speech today, of course. I thought, she keeps doing this to me. She keeps making me do things that I'm uncomfortable with. And then I go, wow, thank you. And that's one of the things that I thought about the whole way here was, damn it, she did it again. She made me get out for myself, my pity party, and just know what's really important. Today I have a very peaceful marriage. I've been married 33 years almost. I haven't killed him. And I tried. I gave him like a stick of butter a night, hoping he would die from a heart attack. Nancy taught me to breathe when my anxiety was so bad. She taught me how to pray. We did a whole book on that. She taught me to meditate. She taught me how to survive when life is good and when life is bad. When my son called me at 3 o'clock in the morning a couple months ago, car accident, of course, because he's 21. And his car is totaled, and he's flipped his car, and he had to crawl out of a car that was upside down. Everything I had learned from Nancy kicked in. And all I could think of was how appreciative I was that I had her in my life, because that was a hard moment. But both my husband and I handled it with such grace and dignity because of her. My husband does not attend church because he is a very shy person, and this would drive him insane, all these people touching him. But he can't help it. He has learned so much from her, because my sons, when they came to church, when they were kids here at Unity of Clermont, they would quote Nancy all week long. So between my sons and I, my husband had no chance. He's learned the Unity way. The thing, like today, when we first started having this church over at the train station, Nancy wanted us to sometimes support her by doing some of the readings and stuff. Even though I had attended the Catholic Church for so long, I didn't understand how the Bible worked. So I never admitted to you that one of the reasons why I didn't want to read up there is I didn't know how to say chapter 3, verse 12. Because Catholics don't pick up the Bible. The other thing about the Bible that I learned so much from Nancy was just the nuances, like the prodigal son, Her lesson on that is amazing. I heard about the prodigal son my whole life, and I never got it. I thought it was ridiculous. I heard Nancy explain it, and my mind just exploded. Her lessons on the Beatitudes with Eric Butterworth are amazing. They're profound. They change your life. I'm, like I said, one of the longest standing members of this church, and the reason I have volunteered my time, my treasure, my talent is because I want to give back, because I have become a person that I'm proud to be most of the time. In closing, one of the things I want to just really encourage you guys to do is try the things that Nancy suggests you try. When she says, just this week, do this, do that. One of the things she taught us to do was to give people nicknames, especially mother-in-laws, husbands. My children, they were 8 years old, 7, 8 years old when they first started coming here. And so I started calling my twins, they're twins, so they only got one nickname, sorry. They have to share. Angel. I do consider them angels. Most of the time they do act like angels. So I promise you it worked. My children love when I call them that because they know it is coming from Unity. They know it's coming from Nancy. And they love Nancy dearly because they know that she saved their mother's life. I always end my correspondence, instead of warm regards, with Unity love, because that is really what this church is all about. And when you feel so much love, it makes it hard not to love yourself. And that is what's so fabulous about Unity of Clermont.
I didn't know I was going to speak today, but I can say something that I am Marie, I'm Maria, and I'm Marie. Why? Because I speak 3 languages, and I travel a lot for my job, and I always say that I get like multi-personality because if I travel to Paris, I will be like, bonjour, bonjour, I'm French. And if I travel to Spanish country, I get up from the taxi, buenos dias, nobody will imagine. I'm sitting down in the train in Paris, the person starts speaking French, I speak French, they thought that I'm a French person. It's just like, and I grew up like that too, because my mom, I grew up Catholic, I grew up First Baptist. You know those church that your mom got a special chair to sit, nobody can sit on it? So that's how I grew up. My mom put us in a Catholic church, so every Sunday morning early, I go to the Catholic church and praying Virgin Mary. At that time, I want to be a nun. So after the church, we go and dress. Just now, we meet my mom at the Baptist church. And then we moved to New York. We live in a neighborhood, one side is Jewish, one side is Spanish. So now I like the old Jewish people because they cook good. Good pasture. So and they were like Orthodox Jew. So I'm going to Baptist Catholic, and then on Saturday, after they finish praying everything, I go over there, they start eating after the sunset. Oh my God, I like it. And I celebrate Rosh Hashanah for the longest time. Even after I get married, I celebrate Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. I take the tradition because every Friday afternoon, they put the light, we pray. And all these pieces of Baptist, Catholic, Jewish, and my sisters, they stick with the Baptist. I am the black sheep in my family because I was living in New York. I do my schooling in New York. And then when I graduate college, I went to Chicago. So when I get in Chicago, I get my bed baggage with me. I go to the Spanish Catholic church. I go to the Jewish temple because I was living in a Jewish community, 90%, and the thing was right opposite of me. Just dress up, go to the Jewish church on Saturday. Then I go to the Baptist church. I keep going to different Baptist church. It looked like I'm looking for something. And I go to some Baptist church, I go to some church that I don't even know. The people start singing, get language, and then I'm sitting down, I'm looking, I saw the 2 sisters, they are talking, they just making face about the pastor. I said, that's not for me. I go to another one. So when I get to I work in the financial institution. I always work in a big, big environment. So I get to the Chicago Stock Exchange. It was so big, all kind of people. Maybe because of my culture and so much culture that I have, I respect people, whatever you are, whoever you are, whatever path you take in life. I'm not here to judge. I respect whatever you are. So my sisters, they become very involved in Baptist church. They baptize and everything. They say, you see, my mom give us something. You refuse to take what my mom give us. My mom give us the church because the church was like, you go to Catholic church on Saturday and Sunday morning. After Catholic finish, you go to the Baptist. When Baptist finish, on Saturday morning, you go to young prayer. And my life was only church that I know, but different type of church. So, and when I was at the, even when I was, first I worked for a French bank that I was travel a lot. And when we have issue, I said to my boss, I'm going for a walk because so much problem. Sometimes I didn't even go home. I got a hotel room, work when we have issue with the system, with the market, sleep at the hotel, come back again. So there was this girl, she was a Jehovah's Witness. And one day, I find out that I'm looking for something. There was a church not too far from work. One day I said to Dania, you know, I'm going for a walk. And I end up at the Catholic church. I just sit down and do my prayer. And she was the one. When we get by the church, she crossed the street. She said, I'm not walking. I'm not walking by this church. I say, but I think it's stupid because church has nothing to do with, oh, no, that's her belief. That's the way she go up. And my little sister too. One day we went out to eat. There was a Buddhist at the restaurant. And she said, these people, they don't know. I say, but how do you know? What about if these people will never expose? So God gonna say, you know this, you dead. She said, oh, well, before they die, they must become this and that. So I guess that's what put me a part of my family. And when I was at the exchange, there are a couple of people I used to take lunch with, and I talked to them about religion, and one day, I don't know who, there was something about unity. You come out on the paper. I live in Skokie in Illinois because that's where I'm from. That's where I spend most of my life. And that person leave a little piece of the newspaper for me about unity. And I came to work on my desk. I said, who leave this for me? It's a bunch of guys. I was the only woman. Nobody said anything. So I took that piece of paper, and on Saturday morning, I drove by Unity. And the Sunday, I drove again by Unity. I said, oh my God, I'm afraid of going. So when I went to Unity, I don't know, for some reason, I feel that this is what I was looking for. It's not like you go to the church, people are looking at you, because I go up to church, the minute you step in, they study you from up and bottom. I've been to it was like my soul was looking for something. And I get to Unity, I saw homeless, I saw gay, I said, ooh, this is me. I said, this is me. And my reverend was a gay person. And then I went and tell a couple of people, they said, you go to the evil church. I said, that's good. I said, you know what? I'm one of the people who's not saving because I belong to Unity. So you guys think that because I belong to Unity, I'm not saved? Oh, my mom, she left some good things for us, tradition for us, and here you are to some Unity. Oprah Winfrey you saw on TV, they thought that I become from Unity because I saw Oprah talking about Unity, and it's not true. It's that person that I didn't even know who left this newspaper for me. But maybe because I was telling that person what kind of person I am, I respect people. I don't want to judge because nobody ever come back and say how it is on the other side. Why should, to me, going to the other church feel like I'm working to the pastor? I feel that, to me, I have to get this pastor as a middleman. I have to go to him to get to God. That was my experience. So when I get to Unity, I find it's, I saw all kind of people. My little congregation, it was like, I can wait on Sunday morning. And then we have like after church, everybody wants food, people eat. And then there was so many things going on, and I get deep, very involved in the church. And even my husband say, sometimes, my husband say, I think, you really find your path. You really find where you belong. I say, I think so too. The last 7 years, I was in Unity, and I said, I'm hoping that one day, if I move, I will find a Unity church. So when I decide to buy a house, I bought a house in Mondoa, but I was living in Chicago, travel, but sometimes when I'm tired, I come to my house in Mondoa resting, but there was no Unity. I could not find Unity. So I said, when work say, okay, for the disease that was going on, work say, okay, you guys can work from home. So I went to Mondoa, but there was no Unity. Then I beginning to go to some Catholic church to replace Unity in my life. And I told my husband, I want to go to civilization. I feel like I'm in a country. First of all, I like classical music, I like theater and this and that. I could not find it. So I said, I look and everywhere, and I said, oh, I think Clermont will be perfect for us because you get Dr. Philip, you get all downtown, not too far from us. And I told my husband, before I look for this house, I gotta find out where is Unity first. And then we went to 27, we went to look at the house, and my husband said, okay, now, we're gonna go home. I said, no, we're gonna go to Unity. I decide I'm not gonna stay here, just leave for the house. I have to find Unity. And I was so lucky, Unity is 15 minutes away. And I said, how much is this house? I'm taking this house because I need Unity in my life, because I don't know what it is about Unity. I feel they teach you to love yourself, based on my belief, respect other, pray for other, don't judge others. So I find that. I find that option, and really, so I'm happy, and you're gonna see me here. You can call me Maria, Marie, because I speak Spanish. My mom Cuban, so I am Spanish. I'm Haitian. I speak all the languages. So those 3 languages, whoever speak, they can. Anytime you guys want to speak French, je suis ici. Speak Spanish, yo hablo español, sí, pero ven acá. Yo estoy María. Por la gente que habla español, yo soy cubana. Sí, muchísimas gracias. Je m'appelle Marie et je parle français. Et je suis ici, and I like it, so you're going to see me in Unity. So you have me forever. Thank you.
Cheryl Brown.
Okay, I found what I sent you. Hold on. All right, so I am Cheryl. See if I can read all this. Okay, I'm Cheryl. This is a big group. Oh, Lord. I've never seen so many people here before. But years ago, I'm originally Catholic. I was born, baptized, Catholic. But because of the personality that I have, I go everywhere. So I've been to Lutheran church, I've been to Baptist church, and I'm always trying to find that one thing that I can't find in the Catholic church. I definitely can't find it in Lutheran or Baptist. And my mom goes to the Episcopal church here in Clermont. And my mom is always saying, why don't you come to church with me? Like that tradition, I just can't do it, So, and I went to Real Life. Believe me, I've been to all the churches, right? So years ago, I read this book called The 4 Agreements. I don't know if anybody else has read the book, right? And it helped me understand the word tradition. We were born and given a name by our parents, because that's the way things have always been. That's our name. My name is Cheryl, Dana, Maria, Marie, Kim, Nancy. That's what we've known. We had no choice because we were children, but as we matured, we have the power to take our lives back from our parents, right? We have the power to live our dreams and create our own memories, but the majority of people don't change anything. Okay, phone. Okay. Let me turn it this way. Okay, come out of that and go back. Sorry. Okay, here we go again. Don't change anything. They continue with the tradition of their parents. I did for many years, attending Catholic schools and churches. I would recite the Hail Mary and go to confession to tell my sins to the priest, and hopefully he would relay it to God, and then I would be forgiven, right? We mold ourselves into this person for our families to be proud of, but are we really living our truth, right? My name is Cheryl, but do I really want to be Cheryl? I don't know, and I never explored any other name. However, I think we all should just be ourselves and be who we want to be. The same goes for our spirituality. I believed in the Catholic religion until I was in my 20s. It all changed for me when I attended a non-denominational church in Brooklyn, where I was able to sing and raise my hands and praise God. Brooklyn Tabernacle. We would wait on lines to get in church. So we would have to get there for the first service and wait in line to get into the second service and sit in the front, okay? So we would sing and raise our hands, and I would make sure my nails are done because it was more a fashion show, and Brooklyn Tab have an award-winning choir, and I always wanted to be in a choir, but I would never, ever, ever think of auditioning because I would never get on that choir. But nevertheless, I loved it. I enjoyed it. It was different. Every Sunday was like a concert with songs that touched my heart and my soul. This became a ritual for me. Where on Sundays I would get dressed up and, like I said, get my nails done so I would look good to attend church. I felt good because I thought my spiritual needs were being met, right? That was what I call tradition. Don't fail me. Then one day, when I moved I had a really bad, two marriages, really terrible. I was young when I got married the first time, and I went through losing a child. She lived until she was 19 months, and we buried her, and that kind of ruined our marriage totally. The second marriage, I was in school, finished my bachelor's, finished my master's, got married, had 2 kids. He's a big attorney in New York, and I had my daycare, I had my properties, and I just felt like we were the powerhouse. However, he gambled, and that ruined our relationship, ruined our marriage, and it was a lot. So I decided, in order for me to stay out of jail, because I wanted to kill his woman that he had, I decided to take my kids and move to Florida. So I purchased a business in Leesburg, built a house in Groveland, and now I felt like life was beginning to come together, Although I missed my family, in New York, I just decided I needed a change for me, for my children, for my sanity, and to keep me out of jail, because I would fight for my family, fight for my kids, So when I came down, I went to Meredith Nagel's office to secure my loan, she's my lawyer or whatever. And they introduced me to a young man that was in the office. They knew I was single. They were trying to hook me up. And they introduced me to Jack Neal Wint. So his parents were Unity followers, and so in Orlando. And so we met, and he introduced me to Nancy, and this was 16 years ago over in, by the other building, the historic village, yeah. So for me, when I walked in the building, I'm like, this is not church. This is, church is a building with a cross on it, you know? And people were just dressed regular with jeans or whatever, and they would just come to church, and like, okay, this is interesting. And I was greeted at the door with stones in a basket. I'm like, take a stone, right? And then they had these cards, these affirmation cards, and we would take them. And I brought them last week to show Nancy that I still have them, because I have them. I used to take one every Sunday, and I still have my stones. I would travel around with these stones. I didn't know what they were for, but they were pretty, blue and red and green, and they had all different colors. They were so beautiful. So I had these stones, and I would come on and off to church, and I would go to my kids, my kids were going to Real Life, so we started going there because we had to sign something every Sunday, and I'm like, okay. And so on and off, but my heart is really here. And just being here, I've learned so much about life, about me, about people, about my family. Now that I'm with Unity, and now that I'm studying more, not only in Unity, not only attending the church, but also studying and reading like The Eye of the Storm, right? And quantum living and manifestation, that blew my mind away, because I was able to put together a slide, and actually I listen to it every single day, even now. And I call myself a master manifester because I've been manifesting everything that's on my slide. Everything that I was taught by Nancy, I implemented it into my life, and it's actually working, you know. So I'm going to end by saying I love Unity. It's a non-judgmental atmosphere here, and I really, really enjoy being here, and I've learned so much, and I feel like I'm growing spiritually, and I'm growing just as a person, just a loving person, and I love you all.